Welcome to the Rest Research Lab. As you settle in tonight, we explore the biological architecture of deep sleep. This is the physiological state where the body shifts from active engagement with the external world to profound internal repair. It is a time of cellular reconstruction, metabolic recalibration, and cognitive consolidation. All of the mechanisms we will discuss tonight are grounded in peer-reviewed research, and you can find the links to every study in the video description. As you lie there, allowing your breathing to slow and your muscles to release their tension, understand that sleep is not merely an absence of wakefulness. It is an active, highly orchestrated biological process. When you drift into the stages of slow-wave sleep, your brain and body engage in a symphony of restorative functions. We are going to explore 100 distinct biological mechanisms that activate during this state. You do not need to memorize these pathways. You simply need to listen, relax, and let the terminology wash over you as your mind prepares to enter the very states we are describing. Reason number 1, the activation of the glymphatic system. Your brain accumulates metabolic waste throughout the day, which can lead to cognitive fatigue and neurodegeneration. During deep sleep, the glymphatic system opens its channels. Cerebrospinal fluid flows rapidly through the brain tissue, washing away neurotoxic proteins like amyloid beta and tau. This fluid dynamic is driven by the expansion and contraction of extracellular spaces, mediated by aquaporin 4 channels on astrocyte cells. Reason number 2, the downregulation of sympathetic tone. Chronic stress keeps your heart rate elevated and your blood vessels constricted. As you enter deep sleep, your autonomic nervous system shifts dominance from sympathetic to parasympathetic control. Your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops, and the vascular system relaxes. This nocturnal dipping is essential for cardiovascular recovery and endothelial repair. Reason number 3, the surge of human growth hormone. Tissue repair requires systemic anabolic signals. The majority of your daily human growth hormone is secreted in a massive pulse during the first cycle of slow-wave sleep. This peptide hormone binds to receptors in your liver and muscle tissue, stimulating the production of insulin-like growth factor 1, which drives cellular proliferation and muscle protein synthesis. Reason number 4, the stabilization of postprandial glycemia. Erratic blood sugar levels drive systemic inflammation and energy crashes. Deep sleep resets your metabolic baseline. As noted in the 2026 clinical updates on GLP-1 therapies, metabolic synchronization during rest enhances insulin sensitivity. Your muscle cells become more receptive to insulin, allowing glucose to be efficiently cleared from the bloodstream and stored as glycogen. Reason number 5, the consolidation of declarative memory. Information you learn during the day is fragile and easily forgotten. Slow-wave sleep physically transfers these memories from the temporary storage of the hippocampus to the permanent storage of the neocortex. This transfer is facilitated by synchronized neural oscillations, specifically the coupling of slow cortical potentials with thalamic sleep spindles. Reason number 6, the pruning of synaptic connections. Your brain forms countless neural connections daily, which consumes immense energy. Deep sleep facilitates synaptic homeostasis. Through a process called synaptic downscaling, weak and unnecessary neural connections are pruned away. This reduces the metabolic burden on the brain and increases the signal-to-noise ratio for the neural pathways that truly matter. Reason number 7, the replenishment of intracellular ATP. cellular energy reserves are depleted during waking hours. Deep sleep allows for the restoration of adenosine triphosphate, the primary energy currency of the cell. With the overall metabolic demand of the brain and body reduced, mitochondria can efficiently process substrates through oxidative phosphorylation, rebuilding the intracellular pools of ATP for the coming day. Reason number 8, the reduction of systemic cortisol. Elevated stress hormones break down tissue and suppress immune function. Slow-wave sleep is characterized by the lowest circulating levels of cortisol in the 24-hour circadian cycle. This suppression of the hypothalamic-pituitary-adrenal axis provides a critical window for the body to shift out of a catabolic breakdown state and into an anabolic repair state. Reason number 9, the enhancement of T-cell adhesion. Your immune system needs to effectively target and destroy pathogens. Deep sleep enhances the function of integrins, which are sticky proteins on the surface of T cells. High levels of integrin activation allow T cells to attach firmly to virus-infected cells. This process is heavily dependent on the low adrenaline environment provided by deep rest. Reason number 10, the modulation of leptin and ghrelin. Appetite regulation is crucial for maintaining a healthy body composition. Deep sleep stabilizes the endocrine signals that control hunger. It increases the production of leptin, the hormone that signals satiety, and decreases ghrelin, the hormone that drives hunger. This hormonal balance prevents hyperphagia and supports metabolic homeostasis. Reason number 11, the clearance of hepatic lipids. Fat accumulation in the liver impairs metabolic function. During the fasted state of deep sleep, the liver shifts its metabolic focus from glycogen storage to lipid oxidation. Triglycerides are broken down into free fatty acids and processed through beta oxidation, preventing the development of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Reason number 12, the regulation of adipokine secretion. Fat tissue is an active endocrine organ that influences whole body health. Profound rest normalizes the secretion of adiponectin from adipose tissue. Adiponectin acts as an anti-inflammatory signaling molecule that enhances insulin sensitivity in muscle and liver tissue, creating a systemic environment resistant to metabolic syndrome. Reason number 13, the integration of IoT wearable data. Understanding your sleep architecture allows for precise health interventions. Deep reinforcement learning models analyzing data from wearable sensors have shown that real-time tracking of sleep stages can predict and personalize diabetes diagnosis and management. The physiological stability of deep sleep provides the cleanest baseline data for these predictive algorithms. Reason number 14, the suppression of nocturnal gluconeogenesis. Excessive glucose production by the liver during the night leads to high fasting blood sugar. Deep sleep, through its enhancement of hepatic insulin sensitivity, effectively suppresses gluconeogenesis. The liver receives the biochemical signal to halt the conversion of amino acids into glucose, preserving muscle mass and stabilizing morning blood sugar. Reason number 15, the optimization of pancreatic beta cell function. Insulin is produced by delicate cells in the pancreas that require rest to maintain their secretory capacity. The physiological calm of slow-wave sleep reduces the secretory burden on pancreatic beta cells. This period of functional rest prevents beta cell exhaustion and preserves their ability to release insulin efficiently in response to meals. Reason number 16, the upregulation of autophagy in muscle tissue. Damaged cellular components must be cleared to maintain muscle function. Deep sleep triggers autophagy, a cellular recycling program. In skeletal muscle, autophagosomes engulf damaged mitochondria and misfolded proteins, breaking them down into basic amino acids to be reused for the synthesis of new, healthy cellular structures. Reason number 17, the synchronization of the gut microbiome. Your digestive tract is governed by its own circadian rhythm, which impacts systemic inflammation. Deep sleep supports the nocturnal activity of specific bacterial strains in the gut microbiome. These bacteria ferment dietary fibers into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which fortify the intestinal mucosal barrier and prevent the translocation of endotoxins. Reason number 18, the normalization of uric acid levels. High uric acid contributes to joint pain and cardiovascular stress. The efficient renal filtration that occurs during the sustained low blood pressure of deep sleep allows for the optimal excretion of uric acid. This nocturnal clearance prevents the crystallization of urate in the joints and protects endothelial function. Reason number 19, the restoration of heart rate variability. A rigid and flexible heart rate is a marker of physiological stress. Deep sleep dramatically improves heart rate variability, which is the beat-to-beat fluctuation in your heart rhythm. High variability indicates a flexible, responsive, autonomic nervous system capable of adapting to environmental demands and mitigating stress responses. Reason number 20, the upregulation of endothelial nitric oxide synthase. Vascular health depends on the ability of blood vessels to dilate. During the physical stillness of deep sleep, the inner lining of your blood vessels increases the production of an enzyme called endothelial nitric oxide synthase. This enzyme produces nitric oxide, a gas that relaxes smooth muscle cells and maintains vascular elasticity. Reason number 21, the reduction of arterial plaque vulnerability. Inflammation makes cholesterol plaques in arteries prone to rupture. The systemic anti-inflammatory environment of slow-wave sleep stabilizes these atherosclerotic plaques. By reducing the circulation of inflammatory cytokines, deep sleep encourages the formation of thick, stable fibrous caps over arterial lesions, preventing cardiovascular events. Reason number 22, the lowering of central venous pressure. High pressure in the venous system strains the right side of the heart. As you lie horizontally in deep sleep, venous return to the heart is facilitated without fighting gravity. This structural offloading reduces central venous pressure, allowing the right ventricle to operate with maximum efficiency and minimal mechanical stress. Reason number 23, the benefits of aquatic exercise on sleep architecture. Physical activity shapes your nocturnal physiology. Meta-analyses demonstrate that aquatic exercise significantly enhances the quality and duration of deep sleep in patients with chronic diseases. The hydrostatic pressure and thermal regulation of water-based movement prime the thermoregulatory system for the core body temperature drop required for slow-wave sleep onset. Reason number 24, the clearance of myocardial oxidative stress. The heart beats continuously and generates significant reactive oxygen species. Deep sleep provides a window where the mechanical load on the heart is lowest. During this time, endogenous antioxidants like glutathione neutralize free radicals within the cardiac muscle tissue, preventing oxidative damage to the myocardial mitochondria. Reason number 25, the attenuation of renin-angiotensin activation. Fluid retention and vascular constriction are driven by kidney hormones. Deep sleep suppresses the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. This suppression prevents the excessive retention of sodium and water, allowing the kidneys to maintain an optimal fluid balance and preventing hypertensive stress on the vascular walls. Reason number 26, The repair of the blood-brain barrier. The barrier protecting your brain from circulating toxins can become leaky due to stress. Slow-wave sleep promotes the expression of tight junction proteins like claudin and occludin. These proteins zip the endothelial cells of the cerebral microvasculature tightly together, restoring the structural integrity of the blood-brain barrier. Reason number 27. The normalization of platelet aggregation. Sticky blood increases the risk of microvascular blockages. The parasympathetic dominance of deep sleep reduces the reactivity of blood platelets. By downregulating surface receptors that respond to adrenaline, platelets remain smooth and unaggregated, ensuring unhindered microcirculation through the smallest capillaries of the body. Reason number 28. The inhibition of mTOR signaling. Constant cellular growth leads to accelerated aging and exhaustion. Deep sleep naturally inhibits the mechanistic target of rapamycin, or mTOR pathway. This brief, nocturnal inhibition of growth signaling acts as a metabolic reset, forcing cells to pause proliferation and focus their energy on internal maintenance and DNA repair. Reason number 29. The upregulation of DNA excision repair. Ultraviolet light and metabolic byproducts damage your DNA daily. During the deep stages of sleep, enzymes responsible for nucleotide excision repair become highly active. These molecular machines travel along the double helix, identifying bulky DNA lesions, snipping out the damaged sequences, and synthesizing pristine replacement strands. Reason number 30. The modulation of KRAS signaling pathways. Aberrant cellular signaling can lead to unregulated tissue growth. Deep learning-guided spatial transcriptomics has identified that complex intracellular signaling, such as the KRAS pathway, requires precise regulation. The metabolic fasting state of deep sleep helps downregulate hyperactive signaling cascades, maintaining normal cellular division and tissue homeostasis. Reason number 31. The lengthening of telomeric ends. Cellular aging is dictated by the shortening of protective caps on your chromosomes. Profound rest supports the activity of telomerase, the ribonucleoprotein enzyme that adds DNA sequence repeats to the ends of chromosomes. By lowering oxidative stress, deep sleep protects telomerase function, slowing the biological aging of your cells. Reason number 32. The clearance of senescent cells. Zombie cells that no longer divide secrete inflammatory molecules that damage surrounding tissue. The robust immune surveillance that occurs during slow-wave sleep enhances the ability of natural killer cells to identify and induce apoptosis in these senescent cells. This nocturnal clearance prevents tissue degradation and systemic aging. Reason number 33. The stabilization of the epigenome. Environmental stress alters how your genes are expressed. Deep sleep facilitates epigenetic maintenance. Enzymes called DNA methyltransferases work during this restful state to maintain appropriate methylation patterns on your genome, ensuring that inflammatory genes remain silenced and repair genes remain accessible for transcription. Reason number 34. The folding of endoplasmic reticulum proteins. Misfolded proteins cause cellular toxicity and trigger cell death. The endoplasmic reticulum, the protein folding factory of the cell, utilizes the low-stress environment of deep sleep to clear its backlog. Chaperone proteins actively assist in folding complex amino acid chains into their correct three-dimensional structures. Reason number 35. The reduction of intracellular advanced glycation end products. Sugar molecules can cross-link with proteins, rendering them dysfunctional. The stabilized blood glucose levels achieved during slow-wave sleep drastically reduce the formation of advanced glycation end products. This preserves the elasticity of collagen in your skin and the flexibility of your vascular tissue. Reason number 36. The maintenance of mitochondrial membrane potential. Energy production requires a strict electrical charge across the mitochondrial membrane. Deep sleep allows mitochondria to repair their inner membranes, preventing the leakage of protons. This restoration of the mitochondrial membrane potential ensures that cellular power plants operate with maximum efficiency and minimal free radical emission. Reason number 37. The synchronization of respiratory sinus arrhythmia. Your heart and lungs must work in perfect mechanical harmony. During deep sleep, the coupling between your breathing and your heart rate becomes highly synchronized, a phenomenon known as respiratory sinus arrhythmia. As you inhale, the heart rate slightly accelerates. As you exhale, it slows, optimizing the efficiency of pulmonary gas exchange. Reason number 38. The relaxation of bronchial smooth muscle. Airway resistance forces the respiratory muscles to work harder. The parasympathetic tone of slow-wave sleep induces bronchodilation. The smooth muscles wrapping around your bronchial tubes relax, widening the airways and allowing for deep, unimpeded airflow into the lower lobes of the lungs. Reason number 39. The dietary modulation of sleep apnea. Nutrition directly impacts nocturnal airway stability. Protocols exploring a Mediterranean diet adapted for specific populations demonstrate that reducing systemic inflammation through diet improves metabolic risk indicators in patients with obstructive sleep apnea. This nutritional intervention reduces pharyngeal tissue edema, physically widening the upper airway during deep sleep. Reason number 40. The optimization of diaphragmatic excursion. Shallow chest breathing is inefficient and stressful. As you sink into deep rest, accessory breathing muscles disengage, and the diaphragm takes full control. The deep, rhythmic descent of the diaphragm maximizes the expansion of the thoracic cavity, drawing air deep into the oxygen-rich bases of the lungs. Reason number 41. The restoration of chemoreceptor sensitivity. Your brain monitors blood gases to regulate breathing. Chronic sleep fragmentation blunts the sensitivity of central chemoreceptors to carbon dioxide. Sustained periods of deep sleep restore this neurological sensitivity, ensuring that your brain responds instantly and accurately to minute changes in blood oxygen and carbon dioxide levels. Reason number 42. The clearance of pulmonary secretions. Mucus accumulation in the lungs impairs oxygen exchange. The slow, deep, and rhythmic breathing patterns of slow-wave sleep facilitate the action of the mucociliary escalator. Millions of microscopic cilia beat in synchronized waves, slowly sweeping trapped particulates and mucus upward and out of the lower respiratory tract. Reason number 43. The maintenance of alveolar surfactant. Without chemical support, your lung sacs would collapse upon exhalation. Deep sleep provides the metabolic energy required for type 2 pneumocytes to synthesize and secrete pulmonary surfactant. This vital lipoprotein complex reduces surface tension within the alveoli, keeping them open and elastic for effortless breathing. Reason number 44. The reduction of pulmonary arterial pressure. High pressure in lung circulation damages delicate capillaries. The systemic relaxation of deep sleep extends to the pulmonary vasculature. Blood vessels in the lungs dilate, significantly lowering pulmonary arterial pressure and preventing the leakage of fluid into the alveolar air spaces. Reason number 45. The saturation of tissue myoglobin. Muscle tissue requires its own local oxygen storage. The extended periods of slow, steady oxygen delivery during deep sleep allow for the complete saturation of myoglobin within skeletal muscle. This oxygen reservoir is critical for cellular repair processes and prepares the muscles for physical exertion upon waking. Reason number 46. The generation of delta wave oscillations. A busy brain cannot repair itself. As you enter deep sleep, the fast, chaotic brain waves of wakefulness are replaced by delta waves. These are high-amplitude, low-frequency electrical oscillations, beating at 1 to 4 Hz. They represent the synchronized firing of millions of cortical neurons, sweeping across the brain in massive, restorative waves. Reason number 47. The down-regulation of the default mode network. Mind-wandering and rumination consume vast amounts of neurological energy. Deep sleep systematically dismantles the connectivity of the default mode network. By uncoupling the prefrontal cortex from the posterior cingulate cortex, the brain halts internal narrative generation, providing profound rest for these highly active cognitive hubs. Reason number 48. The facilitation of sharp wave ripples. Memories must be replayed to be saved. During slow wave sleep, the hippocampus generates sharp wave ripples. These are incredibly fast bursts of electrical activity that compress the neurological events of the day into milliseconds. This high-speed playback mechanism transfers the data to the neocortex for long-term storage. Reason number 49. The optimization of deep brain stimulation parameters. Neurological conditions require precise interventions. Global collaborative platforms, such as the DBS Matchmaker Initiative, highlight the complexity of deep brain stimulation. The profound electrical stability of deep sleep provides neurologists with a clean neurophysiological baseline, allowing for the precise calibration of stimulation parameters to restore basal ganglia function. Reason number 50. The replenishment of neurotransmitter vesicles. Chemical messengers deplete with constant use. The quietude of deep sleep allows neurons to repackage neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and glutamate into synaptic vesicles. This nocturnal manufacturing process ensures that your neural terminals are fully loaded and ready for rapid communication when you awaken. Reason number 51. The modulation of thalamocortical gating. Sensory input prevents deep rest. The thalamus acts as the brain's sensory relay station. During deep sleep, thalamocortical neurons hyperpolarize, effectively closing the gate to incoming sensory information. This sensory blockade protects the sleeping brain from being disturbed by minor environmental noises or physical sensations. Reason number 52. The upregulation of brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Neurons require chemical support to survive and adapt. Deep sleep stimulates the expression of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. This crucial protein acts like fertilizer for the brain, promoting the survival of existing neurons and encouraging the growth of new dendrites and synapses in the hippocampus. Reason number 53. The clearance of extracellular glutamate. Excessive excitatory signaling is toxic to brain tissue. Throughout the waking day, glutamate accumulates in the synaptic clefts. During slow-wave sleep, astrocytes actively pump this excess glutamate out of the extracellular space, converting it into harmless glutamine and preventing excitotoxic damage to surrounding neurons. Reason number 54. The synchronization of the claustrum. The brain requires a conductor to coordinate its many networks. The claustrum, a thin sheet of neurons deep within the cortex, plays a vital role in generating the slow-wave oscillations of deep sleep. Its synchronized firing acts as a metronome, organizing the electrical activity of the entire cerebral cortex into a unified rhythm of rest. Reason number 55. The desensitization of the amygdala. Emotional reactivity is driven by the brain's threat detection center. Deep sleep strips the visceral emotional charge from difficult memories. By profoundly lowering noradrenaline levels in the brain, slow-wave sleep allows the amygdala to process emotional events without the physiological panic, resetting your emotional baseline for the following day. Reason number 56. The strengthening of prefrontal inhibitory control. Impulse control requires robust neural pathways. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for logical decision-making, requires the metabolic restoration of deep sleep to maintain its connection to the amygdala. This top-down inhibitory control ensures that you can regulate your emotions and resist impulsive behaviors when awake. Reason number 57. The linguistic processing of trauma. Expressive interventions require cognitive integration. Research on culturally adapted expressive writing among cancer survivors demonstrates that linguistic processing unlocks health benefits. Deep sleep provides the neurological environment necessary to integrate these complex linguistic and emotional narratives, physically rewiring the brain to adapt to psychological trauma. Reason number 58. The consolidation of motor sequence learning. Physical skills require neurological cement. Whether you are learning an instrument or a sport, the motor sequences are stabilized during deep sleep. The motor cortex replays the specific kinematic patterns learned during the day, smoothing out the neural pathways and translating conscious effort into unconscious, automatic skill. Reason number 59. The integration of cognitive behavioral therapy. Therapeutic interventions must be physically encoded in the brain to work. Protocols developing telehealth tools to enhance cognitive behavioral therapy implementation show that behavioral nudges are effective. However, it is during deep sleep that the cognitive reframing practice in therapy is actually consolidated into long-term behavioral changes. Reason number 60. The restoration of visual attention networks. Focus requires the precise filtering of visual information. The parietal cortex, which directs your visual attention, fatigues rapidly during waking hours. Deep sleep restores the metabolic capacity of this region, allowing you to sustain focus, ignore distractions, and maintain visual vigilance without cognitive exhaustion. Reason number 61. The subconscious incubation of problem solving. Creative solutions often require lateral thinking. During the transitions into and out of deep sleep, the brain engages in relational memory processing. It searches through vast archives of stored information, finding hidden links between seemingly unrelated concepts, which often results in sudden creative insights upon waking. Reason number 62. The environmental mitigation of workplace stress. Your physical environment shapes your psychological state, which in turn impacts your sleep. Randomized controlled trials on color psychology reveal that office space design can alleviate workplace stress. Reducing this daytime allostatic load allows the brain to transition more rapidly into deep sleep, bypassing the hyperarousal that delays slow-wave onset. Reason number 63. the calibration of reward prediction errors. Motivation is driven by dopamine. Deep sleep resets the brain's reward circuitry, specifically the ventral tegmental area. By recalibrating how the brain processes expected versus actual rewards, profound rest prevents dopamine depletion, ensuring you wake up with the motivation and drive to pursue your goals. Reason number 64, the shift toward Th1 immune responses. Your immune system has different modes of attack. Deep sleep promotes a shift toward a type 1 T helper cell response. This specific immune profile is highly effective at identifying and destroying intracellular pathogens, such as viruses, making profound rest your primary defense against seasonal infections. Reason number 65, the nocturnal surge of prolactin. Immune cells require systemic signals to activate. During slow-wave sleep, the pituitary gland releases prolactin. While known for its role in lactation, prolactin is also a potent immunomodulator. It binds to receptors on lymphocytes, stimulating their proliferation and enhancing their ability to mount a robust immune defense. Reason number 66, the downregulation of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Chronic inflammation damages healthy tissue. Deep sleep actively suppresses the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines, specifically interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha. This nocturnal dampening of the inflammatory cascade prevents autoimmune flare-ups and allows inflamed tissues to heal without excessive immune interference. Reason number 67, the generation of immunological memory. Just as the brain remembers facts, the immune system remembers pathogens. Deep sleep is critical for the formation of long-term immunological memory. During this state, antigen-presenting cells interact with T cells, transferring the genetic memory of defeated viruses, ensuring a faster, stronger immune response upon future exposure. Reason number 68, the mobilization of hematopoietic stem cells. Your body needs a constant supply of new blood and immune cells. The deep rest of slow-wave sleep lowers sympathetic nervous system activity in the bone marrow. This quiet environment signals hematopoietic stem cells to divide and differentiate, replenishing your circulating supply of red and white blood cells. Reason number 69, the enhancement of vaccine efficacy. Vaccines require an active immune response to generate antibodies. Clinical data consistently shows that obtaining adequate deep sleep in the days following a vaccination significantly increases antigen-specific antibody titers. The low cortisol environment of sleep allows the immune system to process the vaccine without suppression. Reason number 70, the reduction of C-reactive protein. Systemic inflammation is tracked by liver proteins. Deep sleep reduces the hepatic synthesis of C-reactive protein, a primary biomarker for systemic inflammation. By lowering this protein, slow-wave sleep protects the endothelial lining of blood vessels from inflammatory damage and reduces overall cardiovascular risk. Reason number 71, the regulation of the complement system. The immune system uses a cascade of proteins to clear microbes. Deep sleep regulates the complement system, ensuring it does not become overactive. This delicate balancing act allows the complement proteins to effectively mark pathogens for destruction without causing collateral inflammatory damage to healthy host cells. Reason number 72, the maturation of dendritic cells. Immune sentinels need time to process information. Dendritic cells capture antigens in the periphery and migrate to lymph nodes. Deep sleep provides the optimal physiological conditions for these cells to mature, present their captured antigens to T cells, and initiate a highly specific, targeted adaptive immune response. Reason number 73. The synchronization of the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis. Metabolic rate is governed by the thyroid. Deep sleep ensures the rhythmic secretion of thyroid-stimulating hormone. This nocturnal synchronization prevents the erratic release of thyroid hormones, maintaining a steady, efficient basal metabolic rate and preventing the fatigue associated with endocrine dysregulation. Reason number 74. The nocturnal pulse of luteinizing hormone. Reproductive health depends on precise hormonal timing. In both men and women, the transition into deep sleep triggers pulsatile releases of luteinizing hormone. This hormone travels to the gonads, stimulating the production of testosterone and estrogen, which are vital for tissue repair, bone density, and vitality. Reason number 75. The suppression of antidiuretic hormone. Kidney function must adapt to the night. While deep sleep initially concentrates urine to prevent waking, the structural architecture of slow-wave sleep perfectly modulates the release of antidiuretic hormone. This ensures optimal fluid balance across cell membranes without causing nocturnal dehydration or excessive bladder pressure. Reason number 76. The regulation of parathyroid hormone. Bone density is actively managed while you sleep. Deep sleep stabilizes the release of parathyroid hormone, which regulates calcium levels in the blood. This stabilization prevents the excessive leaching of calcium from your skeleton, working in tandem with growth hormone to maintain strong, dense bone architecture. Reason number 77. The optimization of melatonin receptor sensitivity. Melatonin is the hormone of darkness, but its receptors can become desensitized. The sustained lack of light and physical stillness during deep sleep allows melatonin receptors in the suprachiasmatic nucleus to reset their sensitivity. This ensures that your circadian rhythm remains sharply entrained to the natural day-night cycle. Reason number 78. The modulation of aldosterone secretion. Electrolyte balance is critical for cellular electrical gradients. Deep sleep gently lowers the secretion of aldosterone from the adrenal glands. This reduction allows the kidneys to excrete excess sodium while retaining potassium, perfectly calibrating the electrical potential of every cell membrane in your body. Reason number 79. The resensitization of glucocorticoid receptors. Stress hormones must be carefully monitored. Chronic stress causes receptors to ignore cortisol, leading to runaway inflammation. The absolute trough of cortisol during deep sleep allows glucocorticoid receptors to resensitize. This means your body can respond to stress more efficiently the next day, with much smaller amounts of adrenaline. Reason number 80. The secretion of brain-derived estrogen. The brain produces its own local hormones for protection. During slow-wave sleep, local synthesis of neurosteroids, including brain-derived estrogen, increases. These local hormones act as potent neuroprotectants, shielding neurons from oxidative stress and supporting the structural integrity of the myelin sheath. Reason number 81. The balancing of the somatostatin tone. Hormonal brakes are just as important as accelerators. Somatostatin is the hormone that tells the body to stop producing growth hormone. The deep sleep cycle perfectly orchestrates the withdrawal of somatostatin, allowing the massive pulse of growth hormone to occur before gently reapplying the brake to maintain endocrine homeostasis. Reason number 82. The initiation of the migrating motor complex. Digestion requires mechanical cleaning. During the fasting state of deep sleep, the stomach and small intestine initiate the migrating motor complex. These are slow, powerful, sweeping contractions that clear undigested food, bacteria, and debris from the upper gastrointestinal tract, preventing bacterial overgrowth. Reason number 83. The regeneration of the intestinal epithelium. The lining of your gut undergoes massive cellular turnover. The high levels of growth hormone released during slow-wave sleep stimulate the rapid division of stem cells in the intestinal crypts. New, healthy epithelial cells migrate upward, completely replacing the damaged mucosal lining every few days. Reason number 84. The strengthening of tight junctions in the gut. A leaky gut allows toxins into the bloodstream. Deep sleep lowers systemic cortisol, which in turn prevents the degradation of zonulin, a protein that regulates intestinal permeability. This allows the tight junctions between intestinal cells to seal firmly, keeping endotoxins safely within the digestive tract. Reason number 85. The nocturnal synthesis of mucosal secretory IgA. The gut requires its own immune defense. During deep rest, plasma cells in the intestinal lining increase the production of secretory immunoglobulin A. This antibody coats the mucosal surface, neutralizing harmful pathogens and preventing them from attaching to the delicate intestinal epithelium. Reason number 86. The modulation of the vagus nerve tone. The brain and gut are in constant communication. Deep sleep dramatically increases the parasympathetic tone of the vagus nerve. This massive neural cable transmits calming signals from the brainstem directly to the enteric nervous system, reducing intestinal inflammation and promoting optimal digestive motility. Reason number 87. The production of microbial tryptophan metabolites. Your gut bacteria work while you sleep. The stable nocturnal environment allows specific microbes to metabolize dietary tryptophan into indole derivatives. These molecules cross the gut barrier and act as powerful systemic antioxidants, protecting the liver and brain from oxidative stress. Reason number 88. The reduction of visceral hypersensitivity. Gut pain is amplified by a stressed nervous system. Deep sleep raises the pain threshold in the enteric nervous system. By dampening the transmission of pain signals through the spinal cord to the brain, slow-wave sleep alleviates the symptoms of functional gastrointestinal disorders like irritable bowel syndrome. Reason number 89. The restoration of bile acid enterohepatic circulation. Fats must be emulsified for absorption. The physical stillness of deep sleep allows the liver and gallbladder to efficiently reabsorb and recycle bile acids from the lower intestine. This enterohepatic circulation conserves energy and ensures a ready supply of bile for the first meal of the day. Reason number 90. The stabilization of gastric acid secretion. Stomach acid must be carefully regulated to prevent ulcers. The deep parasympathetic state of slow-wave sleep normalizes the release of histamine and gastrin. This prevents the hypersecretion of gastric acid during the night, protecting the esophageal and gastric lining from acid-induced erosions. Reason number 91. The optimization of electron transport chain efficiency. At the subatomic level, energy production relies on quantum tunneling. Deep sleep stabilizes the inner mitochondrial membrane, optimizing the precise distance between protein complexes. This allows electrons to tunnel through the transport chain with near-perfect quantum efficiency, minimizing the leakage of destructive free radicals. Reason number 92. The preservation of the NAD+ to NADH ratio. Cellular longevity depends on metabolic sensors. Deep sleep maintains the critical balance of nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. By allowing the cell to clear metabolic backlogs, slow-wave sleep ensures a high ratio of NAD+, which is required to activate sirtuins, the primary longevity proteins in the body. Reason number 93, the activation of sirtuin-1 pathways. Longevity genes must be physically activated. With NAD+ levels restored during deep sleep, the sirtuin-1 enzyme becomes highly active. It travels to the cell nucleus and removes acetyl groups from histones, tightly coiling the DNA and silencing the expression of genes associated with cellular aging and senescence. Reason number 94, the maintenance of water coherence in the cytoplasm. Water inside your cells acts as a structural matrix. The profound reduction in thermal and electromagnetic stress during deep sleep allows intracellular water to form highly structured, coherent exclusion zones around proteins. This structured water facilitates rapid, frictionless enzymatic reactions necessary for cellular repair. Reason number 95, the reduction of endogenous DNA double-strand breaks. Simply metabolizing oxygen causes DNA damage. The lowered metabolic rate of deep sleep drastically reduces the frequency of endogenous double-strand breaks in your genome. This mechanical pausing of oxidative stress provides the necessary time for the cell's repair machinery to fix existing breaks without being overwhelmed. Reason number 96, the stabilization of the centrosome. Cell division must be flawlessly organized. The centrosome, the organelle that orchestrates cell division, repairs its microtubule structures during the physical stillness of deep sleep. This ensures that when cells do divide, the chromosomes are pulled apart evenly, preventing the genomic instability that leads to mutations. Reason number 97, the upregulation of FOXO transcription factors. Stress resistance is genetically encoded. Deep sleep activates the FOXO family of transcription factors. These proteins migrate into the nucleus and trigger the expression of a vast array of antioxidant enzymes and DNA repair proteins, fortifying the cell's internal defenses against the stressors of the coming day. Reason number 98, the preservation of stem cell niche microenvironments. Stem cells require a pristine home to remain youthful. The low-inflammatory, highly oxygenated state of deep sleep maintains the structural integrity of the extracellular matrix surrounding stem cell niches. This prevents the stem cells from prematurely differentiating or becoming senescent, preserving your body's regenerative capacity. Reason number 99, the modulation of circadian clock gene amplitude. Your biological clock requires a strong signal. The deep physiological plunge into slow-wave sleep maximizes the amplitude of core clock genes, such as BMAL1 and CLOCK. This massive contrast between daytime activity and deep nocturnal rest creates a robust, unshakable circadian rhythm that dictates systemic health. Reason number 100, the coherence of whole-body electromagnetic fields. The human body generates complex electromagnetic fields. During the synchronized delta wave activity of deep sleep, the electrical rhythms of the brain, the heart, and the enteric nervous system achieve a state of global coherence. This bioelectric harmony represents the pinnacle of physiological restoration, allowing the organism to heal as a unified, integrated system. You have now journeyed through 100 distinct, research-backed mechanisms of deep sleep. From the macroscopic clearing of cerebral fluid to the quantum tunneling of electrons within your mitochondria, your body is a masterpiece of biological engineering. To synthesize this vast landscape of knowledge, we organize these mechanisms into three architectural pillars of restoration. The first pillar is neurological clearance and consolidation. Your brain is a high-performance engine that generates exhaust. Deep sleep is the biological mechanic, opening the glymphatic pathways to wash away amyloid beta, while simultaneously transferring the day's fragile memories into the permanent architecture of the neocortex. It is the ultimate state of cognitive reset. The second pillar is metabolic and endocrine resynchronization. The chaos of modern living disrupts our hormonal baseline. Through the profound stillness of slow-wave sleep, your body suppresses cortisol, surges human growth hormone, and repairs the insulin sensitivity of your muscle and liver tissue. It is the foundation upon which all physical vitality is built. The third pillar is cellular and genomic repair. At the microscopic level, deep sleep inhibits the relentless drive of the mTOR pathway, pausing cellular growth to allow for nucleotide excision repair and the lengthening of telomeres. It stabilizes your epigenome and clears senescent cells, acting as the primary biological brake against the acceleration of aging. As your mind settles and your body relaxes, let this knowledge become part of you. You do not need to command your cells to repair, nor do you need to instruct your brain to clear its pathways. The architecture of deep sleep is written into your DNA. All that is required of you is to let go, surrender to the heavy, comforting pull of rest. Trust in the profound biological intelligence of your own body. Allow your breathing to synchronize with the slow, steady rhythms we have explored tonight. As the delta waves begin to sweep across your cortex, know that millions of cellular mechanisms are awakening to restore you. Rest deeply. Restore fully. Until next time at the Rest Research Lab.